buenos días, bienvenido a la Bolsa de Nueva York. Me llamo Trinidad Chavez, feliz mes de la herencia Hispania. Again, welcome to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez, and today is Friday, September 13th, and we are coming to you from high above our trading floor at the New York Stock Exchange, where Citi, ticker symbol C, will ring the opening bell to celebrate the start of Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month. The company is here today with more than 50 members of its Hispanic and Latino Heritage Inclusion Network for the occasion. And overall, Citi's Hispanic and Latino Heritage Network has almost 7,700 members with 12 chapters globally, 11 in North America and 1 in London. Citi's theme for this year's celebration is Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together. As a part of the initiative, Citi says that it has put together a series of events aiming to capture the essence of Hispanic and Latino heritage and their contributions to society. Now, this is the first of many events that Citi's Hispanic and Latino Heritage Network is hosting to celebrate the month. The company is incorporating a series of events, discussions, and panels for Citi employees, exploring the intersection of culture, community, and commerce. Notable speakers will include senior leaders at Citi, clients, and key external partners. And the company says that all the events are designed to create community with Hispanic and Latino colleagues and provide them with tools for their growth. Now, Citi says that it's committed to successfully executing a range of business and philanthropic initiatives described to help close the racial wealth gap in the U.S. and support its mission to enable economic growth and progress. The company also points to 2 key projects that it's leading to support the Hispanic and Latino community to accelerate economic mobility. Through the tools available on Citi Financial Pathways, the company hopes to expand access to banking and credit in communities of color, investing in affordable housing and supporting entrepreneurship ventures. Meanwhile, the $500 million Citi Impact Fund, which was launched in 2020, makes investments to double bottom line companies, ones focused on both financial performance and its impact on society. As of June 30th of this year, 70% of portfolio companies that are the fund or founded or co-founded by diverse entrepreneurs. Now, we're just getting started here on NYSE TV Live. Here's what's on tap coming up. In just a moment, we're going to give you a little preview of what's moving markets as investors brace for the upcoming Fed policy decision. Then at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Citi will ring the opening bell and open up the final trading session of the week. Shortly thereafter, I'll be speaking with both of today's bell ringers, Citi's head of U.S. Personal Banking, Gonzalo Luchetti, and Maria Hackley, Managing Director and Global Head of Industrials for Corporate Banking at Citi. And we're going to discuss the company's work as it relates to Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month. Now, investors are navigating a very busy economic timeline this month, and after a slew of jobs data came out just last month, a 1-2 punch of fresh inflation data, consumer prices on Wednesday and wholesale prices on Thursday, well, they dominated headlines. But as an even bigger story to talk about will unfold next week when the Fed announces its latest policy decision. And joining me now to break that all down is Alex Coffey. He is the senior trading strategist at Charles Schwab. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Alex, let's just dive in right here. So, with inflation data coming in line with expectations, how do you see this shaping the Fed's approach to cutting rates next week?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we thought we had it all figured out, right? Pretty much inline data, nothing too alarming in the jobs data last week. Jobless claims this week, relatively anemic, but just when you think you have things figured out in financial markets, they have a way of throwing you a curveball. Of course, we're in the Fed blackout or kind of quiet period from hearing from them directly, but we did see through the preferred vector, at least historically under Jerome Powell, Nick Timiraos over at the Wall Street Journal give us that curveball overnight, where an article was published basically saying that the Fed is still wrestling with the fact that they haven't quite determined 25 basis points or 50 basis points. Market participants often monitor something like the CME Fed Watch tool, which will publish those probabilities based off of Fed funds futures. We saw those odds shift from, let's call it 75, 25, or 3-1 in favor of 25 basis points yesterday to about 55, 45, or basically just a toss-up this morning here ahead of the open.
What is the basis point cut that you would agree to?
I think I could hear the argument for both sides. I think 50 basis points, while it maybe sends an alarming message, if we're truly more worried about the economic trajectory than the inflation picture, maybe rip the Band-Aid off now. Many thought maybe starting in July could have made sense. The market's still pricing in basically four 25 basis point cuts or 100 basis points in total by the end of the year. So that's going to be, if that's to happen, at least one meeting with 50 basis points. Do you just get that over with to start? Do you try to do so in maybe a November or December after the election? Or perhaps do you skip one of them and just do 50 basis points twice in kind of succession going forward? Now, the market itself, if we're to take it at what Jerome Powell and team has said, which is that they're data dependent, still favors the 25 basis points, and that may be where I would lean in terms of what I expect, because the data itself hasn't really given us anything alarming yet that would push us to 50 basis points.
But why do you believe that a 25-point cut is viewed as more favorable scenario, for equities compared to a 50 basis point cut? And how does this align with the idea of a soft landing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think it comes down to whether or not you achieve the soft landing. So it's not that 50 basis points wouldn't actually be potentially more favorable for equities. It just historically, beginning with the 50 basis points, oftentimes more coincided with the hard landing or recessionary scenario, and sort of indicated that the Fed was panicking, that they were behind the curve, they maybe waited too long, and they had to do a greater cut to kind of kick things off, where the 25 basis point cut a little bit more in line, coinciding more with the maintenance cut, adjusting real interest rates, trying to reduce the restrictive nature of the policy stance to better reflect the declining inflation data. Now, jury's still out. We don't actually know, of course, if we're going to be in a recessionary situation, if we're going to get the soft landing, and whether the Fed goes 50 basis points or 25 really isn't going to make a major difference right now, as it takes a while through those long and variable lags for that to work its way through the system. But them themselves, the Fed that is, have expressed greater concerns about the economic trajectory over the recent meetings than they have inflation. So perhaps 50 basis points would be welcomed by the market.
Now, I want to turn to some new data that came out recently. So according to a recent survey of 500 plus Schwab traders and investors, only about 25% of respondents listed inflation data as the indicator that they are watching most closely in September, given the rhetoric from the Fed throughout the past year about lowering inflation to 2%. So do you think that this was surprising?
It's not totally surprising, and we asked the question a little bit different now than we have in recent months. It was one of the areas that was most focused on in some of the polling data that we conducted in, let's say, June, July, and August. But when we're looking at this particular situation going into September, we asked Schwab traders and investors, you mentioned about 500 plus of them, to select the most the indicator they're watching most closely, just selecting one, and it was only 25 basis points. But I would note, it was only 25% that selected inflation. What I would say, though, is about 50% of those who replied to that particular prompt said that they're watching interest rates. So interest rates kind of encapsulates the inflation data, but it kind of goes to show that it's not necessarily the data itself that we're most concerned with. It's rather the outcome of what the data helps us get to. And so still, interest rates are one of the primary focuses of investors, and it makes sense, especially with the Fed meeting centered to kick off the policy stance change just next week.
What are some other economic indicators that traders are most focused on this month, and how will that shape the market sentiment?
Yeah, employment data was, of course, one. GDP rate is another, but we were to rank order those. Interest rates far and away the most closely watched. Second was still inflation, but at 25%, it did come down substantially from some of the numbers that we had seen in recent months. What I found most interesting, kind of to tie things into timely events for this week, of course, we had the first presidential debate this week. While there was probably not major market impacts from that, one thing that I found very interesting is only about 12% of those who answered the prompt said that they would make decisions based, their trading decisions based off of short-term news around the presidential election. So as much as we talk about the uncertainty of the election, as much as it's a focus for us as Americans, and we look at these things for other reasons. As far as trading decisions, most investors, by a wide majority, almost 90% of them, are saying that they don't actually make decisions based off the news flow.
And how significant is Jerome Powell's tone and forward guidance expected to be in the Fed announcement? And what should investors listen for in terms of future rate trajectories?
Yeah, I think it's actually more and more interesting now that there is a little bit more uncertainty kind of pushed back into the market, that we don't actually have kind of a clear favorite. Now, this can change in the few days leading up to that meeting, of course, that we'll get in the middle of next week. But right now, with it being kind of a toss-up between 25 basis points and 50, we're going to need to hear, I think, more the reasoning behind it and how close they were to one decision or the other. It's always important to hear confidence from the Fed chair and the team and their message. One thing that Jerome Powell has been very, very keen on is that full unanimous decision. So do we get something with a little bit of dissent? Do we get a little bit more of that in the rhetoric from Jerome Powell himself? And then, of course, if they do go 50 basis points for sake of conversation, are they worried? If you're going to give 50 basis points, it's going to send that message that things are maybe not as rosy as the data suggests. So how does he navigate that situation if that's ultimately the direction they go?
And the dot plot will also be scrutinized closely. So what do you think investors will be looking out for in terms of rate projections for the rest of the year and into 2025?
Yeah, it'll be the changes that are made to those dots, not only for the Fed funds going forward, perhaps even where they see things settling out on the long end
I'm sorry, Alex, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're going to continue this conversation a little bit after our live coverage in the boardroom. But right now, I am going to turn it over to my colleague, Joe Tama, who is live from the boardroom for more of our live coverage, and we will continue this conversation when we come back.
Thank you. It's great to have you as well, Maria. And to your question, most of us here are Latinos. Do you think we cannot make some noise here? Give me a break. That's what we're known for. We can make tons of noise. So, well, it's great to be here with everyone this morning, and it is an honor to celebrate together the Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month. So great to be here with all of you in such a historic location. Just think about the fact that we are in the world's largest financial market that is about to open very soon. And as the leading global bank, where we strive to have a diverse and inclusive culture, we strive to have a high-performing and meritocratic set of values, and how big of a platform we all have to really impact our communities and our team members that work with us every single day. I think in the U.S. we have more than 14,000 Hispanic and Latino folks, including many of you and myself as well. And I was just talking to a couple of you a little bit earlier today about just think about where we all come from, different backgrounds, many of us born in different countries, and we're here in the largest market in the world, the opening bell. How amazing is that, and how much you've all, we've all together progressed as well. So let's do it. Thank you. Despite being originally from Argentina, and we are well known for our arrogance, let's take a big dose of humility and recognize, how far we've come as a community and as individuals, and hopefully try to help the generation that comes after us to be able to, succeed and thrive and be as thriving of a portion of the economy as you were just quoting, Joe. Thank you very much. Great to be here, and it's a pleasure. Thank you.
So, folks, we have a very long-standing tradition of gifts, and I'm going to ask Maria to please come up here as well, if you don't mind. And let's give Maria a round of applause as well. So I'm going to present to both Alberto and
Gonzalo.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. We all end with O.
I'm going to present them with a very special medallion commemorating the fact that they are today's bell ringers. It's an NYSE coin. On the front of the coin, it has our Corinthian columns representing the exchange's commitment to free people, to free markets, to diversity and inclusion. The back of it has the Buttonwood Agreement, which traces the exchange's origins a little bit before Citi, which started in 1812. The exchange goes back to 1792. So please take this as a very small token of our appreciation for you ringing our bell today. Thank you. And not to let anyone else go empty-handed, we also have a NYSE coin that all of you are going to take on your way out. Folks, I better not see any of this on eBay because I promise you I am going to be looking afterwards.
You track it every day?
This better be on your desks. So, folks, we're going to head down to our trading floor very soon. But for those of you who are watching on NYSE TV Live, I'm going to send it back to my wonderful colleague, Trinity Chavez. And all of you, we're going to be heading down to the trading floor.
So much. Again, that was Joe Tama. We're going to be seeing him a little bit later on in the show. But, you know, I want to bring back again Alex Coffey. He is the senior trading strategist at Charles Schwab to continue our conversation. Alex, you know, I do want to get back to the conversation. You mentioned that the presidential debate earlier on had limited market impact, with only about 12% of traders adjusting their portfolios based on short-term political news. So why do you think markets are largely discounting the election outcome for now?
Yeah, I don't know that they're entirely discounting it, because it's hard to really handicap it at the moment. If you look at something like Polymarket, which is one of the most liquid political betting markets that exists globally, it's basically a toss-up between the former President Donald Trump and Vice President Harris at the moment. So if you're trying to price in potential policies based off of whichever administration was to take over in January, you don't really have the idea of which one's going to be based off the current information, unless you feel strongly one way or another and want to make those decisions based off that, and you feel there's a market mispricing. But recent elections have shown elections are really, really close in the U.S. right now. And so we'll see if that continues. It looks as though that will be the case going into November. However, those very contested, close elections also make it probably more and more difficult for one house or the other, one party or the other, to kind of sweep Congress and win the presidency. So if you're looking for more kind of stalemate, sort of a situation when it comes to Washington, more gridlock, which the market sometimes likes because not a lot of change happens, not a lot of uncertainty exists when there's gridlock. There perhaps could be a silver lining in the fact that we don't quite know yet what's going to happen.
Great. Well, thank you so much for all of that important information. I really appreciate you joining us on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now, Citi says that it has been committed throughout its history to execute a range of business and philanthropic, I keep choking on that word, philanthropic initiatives designed to help close the racial wealth gap in the U.S. and support its mission to enable economic growth and progress. Now, the company, which traces its history all the way back to 1812, has appeared in the NYSE's stock quotation books as early as 1819. And it says that it's a high-performing, diverse workforce, and inclusion, culture, and it are invaluable to serving Citi's more than 200 million clients and communities across nearly 180 countries. Meanwhile, Citi's history with the New York Stock Exchange extends for over a half a century. In 1968, with the consent of First National Cities Bank shareholders and the subsequent approval of the company's board of directors, First National City Corporation, commonly known as Citicorp, was created as a one-bank holding company with the Citi Bank of New York National Association and its wholly owned subsidiary. 30 years later, in 1998, the board of directors of Travelers Group and Citicorp approved a merger of equals between the two companies. Now, this merger was created Citigroup. It created Citigroup rather, and the company changed its ticker symbol from CCI to C later that year. Now, in just the past few years alone, Citi has rung the opening bell at the NYSE to start celebrating and to start Pride Month actually in 2021, and then visited the NYSE again to celebrate International Women's Day in 2022. Right now, Citi executives are making their way down to the NYSE trading floor to sign the Distinguished Guest Book, and then shortly thereafter ring the opening bell, which we will be covering. And we'll show you all of this right after this quick commercial break.
Fetch is a completely free mobile app that you can use to earn rewards for everyday shopping, playing mobile games, and all kinds of other things. It's all about how do we build up that repeat behavior so that a consumer knows, hey, if I spend money with this brand, I'm going to earn points. That leads to, over time, them shifting their purchases and you actually retaining that consumer as the brand. So it's advertiser dollars that actually go to work on building loyalty.
What was the motivation behind starting Fetch? Tell me about that story.
We became obsessed with this concept of how do you create something that's easier, fun for the consumer, and spans all of the shopping that they're doing so that you can earn something that at the end of the year could pay for all your Christmas presents, as an example. And that was really where we went with it, and dropped out after my sophomore year to start the business.
And Fetch just secured a new round of funding. Tell me about why you went with Morgan Stanley this time.
For us, it was really important this time around that once we hit profitability, that we wanted to continue to be able to invest in those core pillars, the innovation, growing of the consumer base, but we can do so in a way where we don't have to dilute ourselves with raising equity financing. So doing a debt facility with Morgan Stanley was much more appealing to us.
Can you talk to me more about the value proposition for Fetch customers?
For our users, again, totally free and easy for them to download, get real value, have fun while doing it. And then for our partners, the advertisers, they're able to now connect with the right consumer on a one-to-one basis. We always talk about how if you use the platform more and you're using the app every single day, it should get smarter. It should help you earn more points every single week that you're using it. It's because we're utilizing that data not to go and sell it, but to actually make the product better. And the advertisements that you're getting, they are the value of the app. So people come onto the Fetch app to be advertised to because they actually get to be a part of it and share in that value that they're creating in the form of points.
Now, you just saw some images of Joe Tama along with the executive team of Citi, and they're going to be ringing the opening bell in just a few moments. They're right underneath the bell podium. And again, we are here to celebrate with Citi the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, which officially is kicking off this Sunday and runs through October 15th. Hispanic Heritage Month began as a long celebration in 1968 under President Lyndon B. Johnson, and the celebration honors the histories, cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. 20 years later, in 1988, it was expanded from 1 week to 1 month under President Ronald Reagan. Now, according to the Library of Congress, the start date of September 15th is especially significant. That date marks the anniversary of independence for Latin American countries Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Additionally, Mexico and Chile celebrated some of the Independence Days in September 16th and September 18th, respectively. Now, the NYSE doesn't only cover marquee events at its home on 11 Wall. Earlier this year, Judy Shaw spoke with investors and entrepreneurs from Latin America at LATAM Tech Forum in Miami. Here's a part of her conversation with CEO of Betterfly.
To live their best lives. And the way we carry on our mission is by connecting or combining the worlds of insurance, well-being, and social impact. So we created a gamified experience that encourages and incentivizes healthy habits by our desire to help others. So we convert things like walking, exercising, meditating, learning about your finances, a new language, into social impact, charitable donations, and also connecting the insurance world in a way that makes big engagement and impact. Yeah.
Now, how are you different than others that may be in this space?
Sure. So what we've done very differently is integrate and build a software stack that combines insurance and non-insurance product in a product that is distributed with the simplicity of Netflix or Spotify, right? And we basically unbundle insurance from traditional carriers, embed it in our tech stack, and build new reward frameworks, risk-reward frameworks, and make insurance a product that people actually use every day. So life insurance, think about life insurance. It's a product that you will never use. It's the least tangible product out there, right? But we use life insurance as a motivator to change habits. So let me give you an example. You go out for a run, right? An hour run. Let's say you took, you burned 600 calories. Two things happen with that run if you're using Betterfly. Number one, those 600 calories will convert them into 600 calories of food for children in need. And number two, your life insurance coverage will grow $50, $100 at no cost. Why? Because if you run an hour, you live longer. And if you live longer, you have a lower risk of death. And we're using that financial product, right, as an incentive tool to protect your health, to protect your communities, and to protect your loved ones at the same time.
How did you come up with the idea?
Oof, that's a long story.
Make it short.
Very short. So connects my personal and professional background. But basically, I started doing triathlons almost 10 years ago. I was biking in Chile. I started losing the extra pounds of weight I had. And in one of these bike rides, I said, what if the weight or the pounds I'm losing, I could convert them into pounds of food for kids I had worked with in Africa? What if we could convert calories of sports into calories of food? And what if we could create a solution that used the power of purpose, the power of helping others, to help each person live healthier, happier lives? And the insurance component came into the equation. I have a background in finance. I worked at JP Morgan for almost 15 years, and I got to work with a lot of insurance companies. And the underlying value of an insurance company, particularly life and health, has to do with the policyholders' health, habits, longevity. So the vision was, let's create a platform, a solution that combines these three separate worlds, like the insurance world, health and well-being, and social impact in an all-in-one solution that empowers people to live healthier, happier lives. So yeah, it's a long story. I started doing Ironmans, triathlons, and in that process, Betterfly was born.
Now we're just a few moments away from today's opening bell. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
A little bit about your thoughts on low volatility strategies in today's market environment.
Absolutely. So for those beyond just the most risk-averse investors, we think they make sense for a lot of investors given the current backdrop in the capital markets today. Just to mention a couple. If you look at popular indices such as the S&P 500, they're trading at high valuations. And despite the fact that we've seen a bit of a rotation thus far this month, there's still a high degree of name concentration in the S&P, or say the Russell 1000 growth as an example. Oh, and let's not forget, central banks around the world are having varied monetary policies, which could affect the path of return for stocks. And last but not least, we have this thing called the U.S. election in a few months on tap, which could cause more investor uncertainty with the time that's still on the clock there.
Yeah, we sure do. I mean, boy, there's no shortage of headline-moving news that seems like it's coming out daily. You know, AB, we were catching up a little bit about this. I mean, low volatility strategies, this isn't exactly new for you and the team, is it?
No, it isn't. And really, it's just an outgrowth of us running quality portfolios for our clients for 50 years. What we found after the tech bubble bursting in 2000 and the GFC in 2008, increasingly more and more of our clients were giving us the indication that, hey, we're okay with taking most of the upside when the markets are doing well, but boy, what we really want to protect against is the downside volatility. That's regardless if our clients live in Singapore, Mexico, or Missouri. It's a common trait.
And there's a couple of brand new ETFs coming out from AB recently. You've got an international low volatility ETF. You have a general low volatility ETF. How do you go about portfolio construction? What's selected underneath?
Yeah, going back to your earlier point, we've been running low volatility strategies for our institutional accounts and clients in our separate accounts since 2011. Now what we're able to bring to bear through a low-cost, tax-efficient wrapper are the AB US Low Volatility International and US Equity ETFs.
All right, the floor is buzzing here at the New York Stock Exchange as we get ready to ring the opening bell in just about 90 seconds, actually. So I was speaking to some of the traders right now. It looks like we're looking at a flat open. The market is still digesting whether or not it's going to be a 25 or 50 basis point cut, and everybody is just, you know, on a high alert, anticipating the Fed decision that's coming up next week. But I do want to point out that, again, Citi is ringing the opening bell. They're getting situated right now on the bell podium, and I'll be speaking to the two bell ringers, again, Gonzalo Luchetti and Maria Hackley, later on in the show in just a few moments. And again, all of the people that are attending, supporting Citi, they're over here gathering just right behind me, right next to CNBC's set, as we get ready to open up the U.S. equity markets and kick off trading for the day. Ending the week strong, hopefully. As I said, we're pointing to a flat open right now. And we're going to be getting a market update from Pete Tuchman right after the opening bell to see, you know, what the market is doing and what we can expect for next week as we approach the Fed decision. Actually, there he is right there. We're going to be speaking with him. But again, Citi is here at the NYSE to celebrate the start of Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month, which is held annually from September 15th to October 15th. As I said, I'll be speaking with two of the bell ringers who we are going to see on the bell podium open up the U.S. equity markets in just a few minutes. But you know what? We're about 10 seconds out from opening up the market, so I think we should tune into that, and we'll meet you right back here. All right, the market is officially open, and we're seeing a lot of green on the screen. It's slightly up, about 55 points right now, and we're going to dive into what's happening right now a little bit more with Pete Tuchman. Again, he is the Einstein of Wall Street. So, Pete, you know, it's looking positive right now.
You know what? It's really positive. We've had a great week after two really fragile weeks in the market, right at the end of August, beginning of September. This week, we've had 4 solid up days, irrespective of the economic data coming in, which was sort of mixed at best. We've had 4 really good days, so it feels like the bulls are definitely back in charge.
So what are the key takeaways here? What should investors be on alert for?
Look, we obviously have a lot going on next week. It's Fed Day, right? We're going to hear whether the Fed's going to cut interest rates. Cut interest rates by 25 or 50 basis points. Right now, it's an 80% chance of 25 and a 40% chance of 50. The 25 will sort of maybe priced in a little bit to the rally we've seen this week. If they do 50 basis points, people may start to be concerned that there's more trouble for the consumer in the marketplace. We did see a little bit of intraday reversals this week because of ALLY, Allied Bank, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs. Some of the banks felt a little soft based on the state of the consumer and their credit card debt and car loans and whatnot, but the market rallied back both days. Tuesday and Wednesday, we had intraday reversals that were significant. That shows that people are really interested in when the market pulls back and we see any kind of sell side, the buyers come in with abandon.
Talk to me, and we're actually getting images right now of the team at Citi signing the wall as they make their way down to the trading floor, who we're going to be speaking to in a little bit. But you know what? Talk to me about other signals from the Fed that could really influence how investors approach all of the scenarios that are unfolding right now, and how should investors be preparing for whether it be a 25 basis point rate cut or a 50 point.
Okay, so look, September historically is a seasonally very volatile month, but it's also a weaker month. We've seen that over year after year. This year, I don't think that's going to be the case. We had look, August was an extraordinary month. We had that great August 5th huge sell-off. We had 2 weeks post after that were really a nice rally, but obviously there's a lot of sectors that have been under attack by the marketplace in general. Magnificent Seven has had one of the great years of all time, but they also now have hit up a level of resistance. So look, we need to look and see what the Fed's going to do with how many basis points. We're going to have to see how September unfolds. Are we going to have more than one cut? Right, with peers, we may have 2 or 3 cuts, and that's what the market has to really identify, absorb, and process.
Talk to me about some of the sectors or assets that are most vulnerable and how it's going to be impacted when the Fed decision comes out. I mean, what's the buzz on the floor? You're here every day, you know, you're working with this, so talk to me.
So I think obviously banking, right? And we saw that happen this week. Out of nowhere this week, ALLY came out and made a report that we are seeing the consumer in a bit of more trouble than anybody was willing to admit. And what ended up happening was it was not just ALLY, it's sort of like the baby with the bathwater. You saw Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. The whole sector of banking got super weak very quickly, and they sold the stock off 6-7%. That's a big deal for the banks. So obviously banks are the biggest sector that will be affected by interest rate cuts. You know, somewhat positive, somewhat negative. We'll see how that unfolds.
And what do you think we can anticipate for the rest of 2024 leading into 2025?
You know what? I am super confident that the end of the year is going to be a good one. I'm not here to predict what the market will do, but just from the sentiment I'm feeling on the floor, every time we've seen any kind of a pullback, the bulls have come back in and just taken the market really strong.
Thank you so much, Pete. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure.
All right, now we're going to throw it to a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back.
Now, Clip is actually a fintech unicorn in Mexico.
We are.
So tell me, what were the key factors that led you to become a unicorn?
So I think it's pretty old school. It's really simple. Number one is the quality of the product. It's not only that we have several products, but for many, many years, we only had one product, but the quality product is absolutely outstanding. Just to give you a piece of data, Clip has been the highest rated app in Mexico, in the Mexico App Store for, I think it's like 6 years or so. So number one, the product. Number two, a very unique distribution model, online and offline distribution model. In Mexico, it's hard to go only with either one. So we have a breadth of distribution models that really help us reach every single corner of the country really, really fast with outstanding service. Number three, talking about service, the quality of the service. 80% of our merchants until Clip, they only took cash. So this is a financial inclusion story. CLIP is Mexico's first financial inclusion story, and as a result, they need to be handheld in the process of start accepting digital payments. So we offer an extraordinary level of service. And number fourth, the basis for all of this is the culture that we have as a company. We have created what we think is a very unique place to work in Mexico. And those four elements are what is what enables or help us become a unicorn and, most importantly, serve hundreds of thousands of merchants throughout the country.
Now, innovation. How do you stay innovative to meet the varying needs of your merchants?
So I think it's also relatively simple. You just have to stay close to the merchants. Really, really stay close. And this is how we developed CLIP in the beginning, listening to what they need, see what they need, be there with them in their stores, in their places of work, and from there, use our creativity and our teams to develop new products and services. So it's staying very, very close to our customers.
Joining me now is Joe Tama. He is Northeast Regional Head for the New York Stock Exchange. Joe, I mean, let's talk about the significance in having Citi here, ringing the opening bell, kicking off Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month.
Yeah, it's a very exciting day, Trinity, for Citi and for the New York Stock Exchange. Citi occupies a very special place within the NYSE community. They've been a partner of ours since 1812, and they've been one of the biggest champions that I could think of for companies who really push for visibility for the priorities, initiatives that they promote, including events like this, Black History Month, Pride, International Women's Day, and Veterans Day. This is just another part of the many celebrations that we are very proud to host Citi for.
And you know, Citi has actually been a part of the NYSE events that we have had here. I mean, we host over 3,000 events a year. And I just want to point out, again, active trading floor, so this is why we're seeing traders running behind us. Yeah, so over 3,000 events we have here at the New York Stock Exchange. Citi has been a part of many of them. You know, they were here for Gay Pride Day. They were also here for International Women's Day and so many others. So walk me through how Citi distinguishes itself you know, in the banking industry from everyone else that's out there?
Sure. Well, what I would say, Trinity, is like, look, the New York Stock Exchange represents the largest community of companies in the world. The combined market capitalization of our companies is about $38 trillion, representing over 140 million jobs, right? And so Citi, I would say, is one of the most aggressive companies that really pushes for this type of visibility. They are a big global bank, and they use their position as a global bank to affect change. They are committed to inclusive and diverse practices. Why? Well, it's the right thing to do. It creates a better company culture, and it also leads to better performance.
This really speaks to our broader NYSE community, right? And our ecosystem and our ethos that we established here, right? In 230-year-old institution, and having a bank like Citi to be a part of the over 2,400 listed companies that we have here, this is what we are made of here.
This is what the New York Stock Exchange is all about. We go back to 1792. We celebrate the past, but more importantly, we look to the future. And we look to the future, and one of the ways that the NYSE really distinguishes ourselves is by being a global mouthpiece for our companies to be able to tell our stories. And Citi is one of the best companies that I could think of who leverages us to tell their stories to their constituents.
Talk to me more about, from your position, how you are working with our companies, you know, both private and public, but also to kick off Hispanic Heritage Month.
Sure. Well, I'm very fortunate, Trinity, that I cover our largest relationships in New York City, right? So what our role is to stay as very close to our companies as we can, and we really need to learn and know what is very important to them. Citi, like I was saying, it is a very important part of their ethos to get the visibility and to really be able to tell their story to their investors, to their customers, to their constituents about what they are doing to affect change. We don't have a better company that is doing it, and I am very fortunate to be playing a very small part to help them tell that story.
And you know, even when listed companies, they're not physically here, what other events can they partake in to just be a part of all the exciting celebrations that we have going on?
Well, there's a lot, right? I mean, companies absolutely love coming into this building. This building is like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for financial nerds, but outside of coming into the building for Bells, we have dozens and dozens of community events reaching investor relations officers, officers, CEOs, CFOs, chief technology officers, chief human resource officers. It's very important to us that our companies know that there are many levers that they can leverage for educational thought leadership events, for roundtables, that we really want their active participation is. The more active our community is, the better we're able to help them tell their story.
And you know, we have about 45 seconds here, so talk to me more about some of the projects you're currently working on and what your priorities are for the weeks to come.
Sure. Well, what my priorities are, Trinity, is to continue, especially as we look to end 2024, which I cannot believe that we're almost heading into the middle of September. My goal, Trinity, is to continue to stay very, very close to my companies, to my relationships, and now, honestly, is the time that we want to start to line up some really cool visibility items for 2025. Citi has already reached out to me for bells for next year.
Amazing.
So keep your eyes out for it.
A lot to look forward to. Thank you so much, Joe.
Trinity, as
Take care.
always.
Now stay tuned. We'll be speaking with today's bell ringers on the other side of the break.
We've architected grounds up for AI, for the math, for the workloads, and what we call at-memory compute.
And as the newly appointed CEO, I mean, you just joined the team about, like you said, in January. So what are your key priorities for the rest of 2024 and the near term?
We really need to focus on AI to reduce the energy consumption and get a better solution to people's hands, because there's people from space to ag tech to cars that are all looking at how AI can help their applications and make things run smoother, more cost effective, or safer. And we're a big component of that.
And you know, talk to me about how your past experiences, your expertise is playing a pivotal role into where you sit today.
The focus on standardizations and open source wins in the long term. How we approach partnerships, and really hyper focus on meeting the customer's needs and doing that with partners in a way that you can scale up and has a multiplying effect. And that's things that I've learned through many generations, seen many semiconductor economic cycles as well. And I think those are the things that really give you staying power and allow you to differentiate.
Can you share any details or key features about your next generation Speed AI and what's different than its predecessor?
It really is about the software. And as impressive as it is going to be sampling our new Speed AI silicon, it's going to be at the software development kit that goes with that. And that's been a big part of what we've done, is enable people to take their app ML or their AI models that they have today, move it over to our superior architecture very quickly, very effectively.
In your opinion, what would you say are the biggest challenges and opportunities in today's technological landscape?
There's always helping people understand the different layers of AI. It's not one size fits all. It's not just about what you do in a language model. It's a lot of industrial applications and seeing how we can improve companies' operational excellence.
Gonzalo Luchetti, head of U.S. personal banking at Citi, and also one of the bell ringers. You were just on the bell podium. This is your first time at the New York Stock Exchange. How are you feeling?
Well, I can't believe it. Primero, mucho gusto y muchas gracias. It's amazing. It's amazing to be here, representing Citi and representing the Hispanic and Latino community. And I couldn't believe that, having been born in Argentina, we're here at this historic building.
I know, I loved your story in the boardroom, but talk to me more about how Citi, as a business, is really uplifting the Hispanic and Latino community.
Well, thank you. No, well, first of all, honored to be here with our Hispanic and Latino members of Citigroup. Obviously, as the leading global bank, we have a big responsibility, I think, in order to use our platform to promote diversity and inclusion in our culture and in our communities. And we have about 14,000 plus members of our Hispanic and Latino community here in the US as employees, beyond obviously a lot more around the world. And I think bringing people together, both in terms of employees and as well as our customers, and enabling them, that's one of the biggest things that we do.
What other work is Citi and the Citi Foundation doing to help the Hispanic community?
Yeah, there's multiple components to what Citi does. One of them is the Citi Foundation that invests in some nonprofits that are Latino-driven. But we also have our diverse financial institutions group, which connects with MDIs. We also have within my business our financial inclusion and racial equity, which is one of my top priorities. And what we try to do is provide access to banking, to credit, and to home ownership products to diverse communities. This is part of uplifting the communities and the underserved ones especially.
What about business leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs? How are you uplifting these businesses in the sector?
Well, thank you. Well, part of it is through our engagement through our business and our communities and giving access to people to financial services. And the second big part is what we do with our employees, where we provide mentorships, affinity networks, and development programs for Latinos and for Hispanic employees. I've been a beneficiary of that. That's probably why I'm here as well. And I've been the beneficiary of being enabled by Citi. I've been at Citi for 18 years. And through whether it was Latino senior executives or Americans or global people, since we are a very global bank, that enablement and that pursuit of merit and of diversity is something that is very close to our heart.
Amazing. Well, I'll let you join your team. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Trinity. I appreciate it.
Take care. Now we're going to throw to a live look of all the excitement that's transpiring on the floor, and we'll be right back. Maria Hackley, Managing Director and Global Head of Industrials for Corporate Banking at Citi, is joining me now, fresh off of the Bell podium. How are you feeling?
I'm fine. I'm so excited and honored to be here. It is really such a privilege to be representing Citi on the kickoff of the Latino Heritage and Hispanic Month. And I've just been with the firm for decades, and it's just such a true privilege to be representing Citi.
Like you said, you've been with the firm for a very long time, so talk to me more about other key initiatives that Citigroup does to really celebrate Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month.
Yes, during this month in particular, we have a number of key events within our community in terms of really engaging our senior leaders, clients, and really leaning in to provide networking and other social events to really improve the growth of our community and really pay it forward, to take the opportunity to take our knowledge and to really provide the right presence for them and programs for them to really ultimately succeed further in their professional careers.
Let's talk more about your Inclusion Network and the employees and colleagues and team members that you have here today. Talk to me about why this Inclusion Network is so important.
Firstly, the Inclusion Network is quite large in terms of the Latino and the Hispanic. It's about 700 employees. We have 12 of them, 11 in the United States, 1 in London. Yep. And it's really wonderful to see the commitment that Citi has, because it really first fosters a critical network that is really important of then developing mentors and sponsors that are really valuable as you go through your career to support you. We also have targeted, training for all of our employees to be able to, and particularly in this network too, with other Latinos, to pay it forward and to really give them the tools so that they can then further their career. And really critical, and we are during this month doing it in a very targeted way, but we really do it throughout the year, and we really do it globally as well.
From where you sit, can you talk specifically about what you do from your vantage point to support the community?
Sure. So firstly, internally, I spend a lot of time mentoring and coaching Latina women. I'm of Cuban background, and it's always been, a priority for me to make the time to invest, mentor, coach, provide words of wisdom. My father taught me that, and I think it's just so critical. We also, not just internally, but when I travel around the world, for Citi, seeing clients, I always make time to either hold female client events where we do talk about best practices, of which Citi has been a leader, and also internally too, coaching globally our younger talent, female talent. So we do that. Separate to that, I'm engaged also in community events outside that are Cuban focused in my case specifically, but again, paying it forward as it relates to both Hispanics and Latins in many aspects, and not only here in New York but also in Miami, where my family's from.
Amazing. And we have about 30 seconds left. What sort of advice would you give to young Latina women who are looking to break into the finance industry or the banking industry?
I would say to them that you have to be prepared. You have to take risks earlier on. You have to be deliberate about developing your network. And you have to really think about what is it that you like to do, but what is going to be your expertise that's going to get you a seat at the table. And don't feel inhibited to reach out. Lean in. Latinos like to help Latinos, but everyone likes to help Latinos. So it's really a function of truly, getting out of your comfort zone and stepping up and taking some risk earlier on, because at the end of the day, you can do it, Latinos can do it, and it's a function of just, putting yourself out there. So it's wonderful to see how many senior Latinos we have at Citigroup and the impact that we have. And at the end of the day, we are an organization that is, over 180 countries, and diversity is a cornerstone of our values. And having, Latinos and really to lead the charge, as we do with many other affinity groups and backgrounds, is really critical.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Maria, for joining us today, and congratulations.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Mucho gusto.
Encantada.
All right, I will see you later. I will let you join your team.
Thank you so
much. Thank you so much. We have so much more coverage surrounding today's bell opening when we come back, so stick around.
So Sept is a technology services company that helps clients that are not in tech, usually traditional companies, banks, insurance companies, big consumer goods products companies, to adjust to upcoming new technology trends, right? So we have seen so much transformation in technology in the last 25 years, and that's what we do. Our mission is to scout the horizon to see what's coming and to understand what the impact and the effect is going to cause for our clients, and help them see the business opportunities that are there with those upcoming technologies, and help them adjust and reconfigure themselves to incorporate those new technologies. And sometimes, most commonly actually, we help them not only change the tech stack, as I say, but change the human stack as well, because there's a lot of ways of working and a lot of different ways of thinking and shifting mindsets that are necessary to actually being able to really thrive with those new technologies. Not only a technical thing, we learned a long time ago that it's actually a lot of how humans use technology and how they change their behaviors and their way of thinking with that new technology that actually can create the real value for them.
And how are you different from others that are in this space?
I think because we've been doing this since we were created in 1995, was like the dawn of the internet itself. I think we're very used to operate in very innovative and unpredictable scenarios. Like incorporation of innovative technology is a hard work, right? It's very easy to do in small scale. So there's probably hundreds of other companies in the planet that can do it in small scale, but really do it at big scale with high performance. That's probably very few companies on the planet that can do it, and Sept is one of them.
Joshua Weinstein, the co-founder of Sonora Global Media, is the fastest growing Hispanic media company in the world. Sonora produces over 150 audio-first content pieces, transforming them into TV properties, films, and live experiences. Backed by prominent investors like Laurel Hapu and Greg Croft, Sonora reaches 1 out of 3 U.S. Hispanics and delivers 1 billion monthly impressions. Joshua, who is also a former Disney executive, brings a wealth of experience to the table, and he was joining me on Taking Stock to discuss all the opportunities within the Hispanic market. Let's take a look.
Today, there's nearly 70 million U.S. Hispanics here in this country, and over 500 million people who speak Spanish globally. Our focus is on where culture and commerce are going, and it happens that U.S. Hispanics are driving culture and commerce. Whether that's music, whether that's art, whether that is spending patterns, what we're seeing is growth in this country is going to be driven by this particular demographic, and we want to super serve them with content that matters and that really speaks to the community. Our idea was to start with audio-first content, and that is allowing us to develop content rapidly, inexpensively, and in a scalable manner. Today, Sonora will deliver more than 70 million downloads this month, and we're able to reach more than 1 of 3 U.S. Hispanics. What enables us to do that is the experimentation that comes from the audio format. So the RSS feed, the way that you get podcasts delivered to your phone, allow us to have almost zero marginal cost of distribution, which means a small startup like us can have the reach that would be otherwise prohibitive in earlier times in the media landscape.
Why did you choose to focus on strictly Hispanic audiences?
Our view is that U.S. Hispanic consumers and Spanish speakers globally are misunderstood and disrespected. And that represents not only an opportunity from sort of a DEI perspective and whatnot, but also in terms of where culture and commerce are going. And so when you think about the global spend of the U.S. Hispanic, which exceeds $1.3 trillion, our view is that a lot of money is being left on the table.
What sort of opportunities does this present? And have you encountered any challenges? If so, how did you overcome them?
There is a lack of understanding of how much purchasing power this community has and how that drives, for example, in our case, the entertainment ecosystem. And so if you look at any given box office number today, the U.S. Hispanic community is over-indexing by a tremendous amount. And so when you have a community of people who are super consumers, the question is then, are you feeding the right kind of content to that community? And do the creators in that community have the opportunity to exploit their ideas, to have their content financed and exploited globally?
Now, with your background as a former Disney executive, talk to me about where you see the digital streaming landscape going in the long term.
Yeah, look, I think today we're in a situation where more content will be consumed by more people in more ways than ever before. And certainly there's a bifurcation there, in as much as a lot of user-generated content, whether it's on TikTok or Snap, is going to continue to see growth. But our view is the vast middle is kind of going to dissipate, and what you're going to have is people who can produce premium, professionally produced content that's relevant at the right price in a scalable way will win. And that's kind of the place we want Sonoro to sit.
Well, it looks like we have a lot of green on the screen. Citi brought all the positive vibes. It looks like we're up in all major averages. So what a great way to end the week on a Friday. And you know what? Citi, again, was here to celebrate Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month, but also I want to bring in my producer, Matt Albani. Happy birthday, Matt. It's his birthday. He is the producer extraordinaire. He is a vital part of our team here. But thank you all for watching. I'm Trinity Chavez. We'll see you next time.
In life, I'm reminded that it's not about the destination. It is truly about the journey.
My pleasure to greet you today from the center of the U.S. capital markets here at the New York Stock Exchange.
I want to just take a minute and not just talk to the people that are in the room, but I want to speak to the rest of the team around the globe. These are people that made this happen, and I know that there is no way we would be here if it wasn't for you.
Everyone at Flutter is proud to join such a distinguished list of companies on this great stock exchange.
Not many people get to do something big in this world, and we get to do something truly special.
This is such a wonderful place to both look back and look forward. Look how far we have come. I'm so optimistic about what lies ahead. It has been a privilege to be with you.